Welcome to the Navigating Disruption podcast. I'm your host, Shaquille Barmel. I'm the CEO of Ocean Blue Strategic and partner with the Summit Group. I'm a coach, consultant, and speaker, and I help leaders, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals make an impact through improved performance. In this podcast, I share insights and interviews with interesting leaders to define practical lessons that you can use to make an impact in the face of uncertainty. We are proud to be brought to you by the Summit Group. We help companies increase revenue and deepen customer relationships by moving from sales excellence to authentic business relevance through engaging learning experiences. In this episode, I speak to Adrian Davis, a fellow partner at the Summit Group and the President of Whetstone. He emerged from the wilderness, as he describes it, with a decision to make a difference in his own life by enabling the transformation of the relationship between others. He makes his mark by learning and inspiring others in what some would say is the oldest profession in the world. Enjoy this conversation. Hello, Adrian. How are you today?
I'm good, Shaquille. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making the time. I've been wanting to spend some time to get to know you a little better for quite a while now. We haven't had really a chance. We've worked in and around each other, but really never had a chance to kind of really get to know each other. So I'm glad we have this.
Although I do feel like I kind of know you from all your facilitations. At least you have a very welcoming style.
Oh, thank you.
Very transparent style. So I do feel like I know you a bit.
Thank you. I also feel like I know you a bit. I've certainly heard really amazing things about you from other people that have seen you in action. Even recently, one of our colleagues watched you in action and he gave me a report about it. So I look forward to diving in some of the ideas that underlie your message to your clients and to the world here. It'll be fun to get into that. So Adrian, here's how I think about how we've kind of come in each other's spheres of acquaintance. I was with the Summit Group for a number of years. I took a leave of absence, which turned into a lot longer than I thought, in order to do some work in the nonprofit space. When I came back to the Summit Group, you were also joining the Summit Group. So I was coming back to the Summit Group. You were coming to the Summit Group. And so it's almost like we were joining at the same time. This is, I guess, end of 2019. Does that sound about right?
October 2019.
Yeah. And so our joint colleague, the president of the Summit Group, spoke very highly of you to me when I met him for kind of the signing ceremony of coming back to the organization. And you live in Toronto, so he said, you guys should get together. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. So I didn't end up coming to Toronto, so we didn't meet live. So tell me, what have you been doing? What have you been doing to contribute to the world? How do you define your role and your place in the world?
So interesting, very interesting phrasing of the question. I don't know if anybody's ever asked me a question phrased quite like that. So let me do my best to answer with the nuance that I hear in the question. I would say I define myself and my work in the world. I'm an educator, and I think it's taken me a while to come to that realization. Most people would see me as a consultant. I see myself as a learner and a teacher, and I get the most fulfillment when working with organizations, working with their teams, and transmitting know-how, transmitting new skills, new perspectives, and just seeing them in turn show up in the world differently, show up in the world more competently. That gives me great fulfillment.
Interesting. That's a great synopsis, a learner and a teacher. So I'm going to ask you a question to dig one layer deeper.
Sure.
Who do you learn from, and who do you pass on that learning to?
Okay, so lovely. I'm going to really enjoy this conversation. So, because it's really forcing me to think and not just give answers that I've given before. I would say that I learned from just human behavior. I'm very intrigued by relationships, particularly healthy relationships, and how human beings engage each other in healthy ways. So I would say my ears are always open, my eyes are always attuned to how people interact with each other in meaningful, healthy, mutually beneficial ways. Who I teach specifically are sales professionals. I have a real love and passion for the art and science of selling.
Yeah.
It's something that I think defines me in a fairly significant way. I think
Mm,
sometimes people see their professional side as one thing and their personal side as another.
mm,
Somehow I've managed to craft a path where these two worlds are really integrated.
mm. These worlds of studying human relationships and finding ways for people to work better together, and salespeople, sales professionals as being the group of people you pass that knowledge on to.
Yes, and particularly sales, I see as more than just a profession.
Yeah,
I
interesting.
really see it as just fundamental to human interactions, to life. You know, it started for me when I discovered sales, realizing just sales was a dirty word.
Hmm.
And, you know, used car salesman was the image that most people that came to
Hmm.
their mind when they thought of sales. But when I discovered sales, Shaquille, I just thought this is the greatest thing.
Hmm.
That this is really meaningful. This is very valuable. I'm
Hmm.
going to devote my life, at least my career, to really understanding and mastering this craft.
Hmm.
So I don't know, just somehow sales and life are more closely integrated in my mind than I think for most people. I think a lot of people see sales as a profession. They see sales as a job. I see successful selling as a big part of life's meaning.
Hmm. Interesting. So I think there's a reason why we were drawn to each other, because what a lot of what you're saying really resonates with me. If I can take a moment to share a personal story that what you've described stimulates for me.
I'd love that.
So I started my career as a sales coordinator coming out of my first degree, my undergraduate degree in business. I started as a sales coordinator, worked with salespeople, saw all sorts of crazy behavior back in the 90s from salespeople. But I really
Mhm.
developed an understanding, a keen understanding of what salespeople were trying to do, as well as the perception of others in the organization of them. Because I
Mhm.
was in the middle
Interesting.
of sales, marketing, and manufacturing, I was the liaison with marketing and
Right on.
manufacturing as a sales coordinator.
Yeah.
So I built trust with marketing and manufacturing, but I also got to hear the snide remarks they made about the sales team.
Hmm.
And for some reason, they felt comfortable sharing it with me because they didn't see me of sales. They saw me
Right.
in a different
Right.
capacity. So I really got these perspectives. Marketing was criticizing sales, and manufacturing was criticizing sales, all for different reasons. And I said, that doesn't seem right, because these are all human relationships and all people trying to do the right thing for our customers in the
Mhm.
company. What is going on here? And I just put a pin in that question.
Mhm.
And then I went to business school, and then I went to management consulting, and then I ended up fell into a project around Salesforce effectiveness,
Okay.
improving the way marketing and sales work together.
Mhm.
And after I did that project, I was excited because it was a combination of science and art and process all around sales effectiveness, ultimately to add value to the end customer. And an opportunity came up for me to join the client. They wanted to hire me in a full-time capacity to join them to execute. So when I called my boss at the consulting firm up and told him that the clients asked me to come work for them,
Wow.
and I told him I'm intrigued and I'm interested, that senior partner at the consulting firm said to me, I have no problem with you going to corporate. It's good for you, good for your career. I have no problem. And I especially like that you'd be going to a client organization. That's also good for us.
Yes.
But why do you want to work in sales?
Wow.
And I was personally offended.
Wow.
Senior partner at the organization, who I really respected, and he
And
was
sorry, Shaquille, what was his background?
engineer,
Okay.
mathematician,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
very much the technical side
Yeah.
of business.
Yes.
And I had to tell him, I said, do you know I actually came from sales before my MBA and before consulting? Because I want him to know that I was taking it personally a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
But it
Yes.
did reveal to me that there is a misconception out there in the world about the role sales plays in the world.
Yeah.
And it still exists today.
Yeah. What do you
And
think his perception was?
I think his perception was that anybody could do sales,
Mhm.
and that sales was relatively unsophisticated. You just give them a product to sell and they go present it, and you give them a pricing framework, and they're always fighting to get lower price because it makes it easier to sell. I think that was his framework.
So in his mind, you were demeaning yourself and
In his
you're selling
mind,
yourself short.
yes, in his mind, I was demeaning myself and selling myself short. Absolutely. I think that's where it was coming from. And when I pushed him on it a little bit, he basically then said, he backed off, because I said, if we believe anything we've been doing as far as the work for the client, we are talking about making sales, elevating it, actually.
Mm-hmm.
More sophisticated process, more scientific approach, more sales enablement. And he backed off, and then he gave me his blessing, and I went on, had a great career with the organization. Sorry for that digression. I wanted to share
Cool story.
that story
it.
only because
Yeah.
it relates very much to what you seems to have committed your life to, is elevating the practice profession of sales and viewing it as a driver of human relationships.
Yeah, and value. And I think
value.
for me, Shaquille, if I could maybe share a personal story.
Yeah.
So I had a pretty rough start, born in a home of domestic abuse. My parents divorced. I just got confused and angry as a teenager. Quit high school, just high school dropout. I was homeless for a while and just not heading anywhere good, right?
Yeah.
Finally, something happened. I said, okay, I'm not heading in a good direction here. I got to turn myself around. Got to go back to high school, get my diploma, and go on to university. And I actually said, I'm going to become a businessman. That was my sort of dream for myself. I want to be a businessman. And I started to read self-help books, things like that. And in that process, I discovered sales. I didn't have enough money to finish university for some various reasons. And I thought, I'm not quitting. I'm going to start a business and just try to generate revenue, but also I want to be a businessman. So this is going to be a great learning experience.
Yeah.
And so I went out selling advertising. And that's how I discovered sales. And Shaquille, I was like a fish to water. It was like, I love this. This is fantastic. I really felt meaning. I felt meaning, and I felt meaningful. And I felt like I was really valuable. And I had this sort of career clarity, first time in my life, right? It's like, I'm going to be a professional salesperson. And I don't understand why there's so much stigma associated with this profession. I see it as highly valuable. I see it as very meaningful, and I'm going to prove that one can be successful in sales with high integrity. And so that was it for me. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I also was very good with technology and had an affinity for technology. So I ended up starting my career in technology sales, software sales. And in a very short period of time, I managed to recover all of that time that I was in the wilderness and lost, because you get to write your own paycheck in sales.
Yeah.
And so I was able to recover that and build a great life for myself and for my family.
Wow.
But to me, I have this real passion for sales. First of all, that the perspective that I had, that this is a good thing to do, to help people meet their needs, to create value for them. And then secondly, because of what it's done for me, like I come from the bottom. And because of the way sales is, where, hey, how much value you get up every day, how much value do you want to create today? And how committed are you to that value creation? And then if you are committed and committed to your customers, you will be rewarded. So I just have a tremendous gratitude for sales, for customers, for this opportunity that we have to interact with them and intersect with them at the point of their need and their needs and their dreams.
Wow, there's so much there that I want to pull on a little bit. I have to kind of make choices now where to spend our time. So I do want to ask you a little bit about, thank you for being so open and sharing, by the way, about the difficult childhood you had. I don't want to dive into the whole experience, but I do want to dive into when you were in your deepest, darkest moments in the wilderness, as you said. Can you tell me about a particular moment or a turning point where you said, I don't want the rest of my life to be like this? Was there an incident or an interaction or a particular moment or experience where something clicked for you?
Yeah, Shaquille, there was. So, as I mentioned, I was born into a home of domestic violence. My father was a fairly violent man, very intelligent man. And would spend time like every evening teaching us math, teaching us, he was just very big on education. So I'm grateful to him for that. But he was also very powerful, very violent man. And so as children, we witnessed things that children shouldn't have to see, shouldn't be traumatized like that. My mother basically had to run for her life and take us with her. and did everything she could to give us just a normal, happy childhood,
Mm,
which worked until I turned 16.
mm,
And then it's like a switch went off, right? And I just suddenly became very angry,
mm,
very judgmental, and so my mom and I just didn't get along anymore. Like I had no
mm,
time for school. I thought it was a complete waste of time. My mom put down an ultimatum, like if I quit school, then I might as well leave because I can't stay there. So I took her up on that. I left, and that's how I was homeless for a while. I just fell into some bad company.
mhm,
But the years from age 6 to 16, those 10 years,
mm,
I'll tell you, Shaquille, my mother set an incredible example.
mm,
We were on welfare initially,
mhm,
and the social worker, I can remember the social worker coming to her, and my mom wanted to work, and the social worker saying, it doesn't make sense for you to work.
mm,
And sitting down with her and showing her the math, that she would actually be further behind if she went out to work, because she has to buy food, she has to have transportation, buy clothes,
mm,
all of this, that she
mhm,
would actually be further behind. And my mom was arguing with the social worker
mm,
and just saying she had to work. And
mm,
so my mom did that. And then one job led to another, and she got
mm,
experience and started to make more money. And I would say maybe every 2 years we moved, sometimes a
mm,
year, sometimes 2 years. And we always moved to better conditions,
mm,
right? We went from like living in a room, all five of us,
mm,
to ultimately living in a house
mm,
in a nice neighborhood and good schools and all of that.
mm,
So I didn't realize it at the time, but I was being programmed by that,
mhm,
and seeing my mom at the bottom of her pit of misery and her resilience, how she
mhm.
came back and fought back and built a very dignified life for her and for us.
Yeah,
And so that was in my mind.
yeah,
And now I'm with these guys that are going nowhere. And I probably spent about 2 years with them in the wilderness. And it suddenly dawned on me after two
yeah.
years, like I think maybe every 2 years, that was about the time we would move to better conditions. So I'm there and we're just going around in circles. We're not doing anything, nothing productive. And I tell you, Shaquille, I couldn't do it. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be here for another 20, 30 years going nowhere. So I had my mother's example. And I think that's what inspired me to say, no, I've got to progress. I can do better. I'm capable of more. And so that was a significant turning point.
Wow, that's what an incredible story, and what an inspiring example your mom sent. There's a moment there that I picked up on when you said that the social worker was now here's what I interpreted. The social worker was focused very much on the short-term pluses and minuses of the practicality of your mom going out and working. It'll cost her more money to go out and work than it would to not. What
Exactly.
your mom was more focused on is what's the long-term implication. And in fact, what's the message that I'm sending my kids here about how to improve
Yeah,
quality of life and get better?
in fact, I should have this conversation with my mom. Like, what exactly
Yeah,
was she thinking?
yeah.
Because I've always taken it as it was just her character.
Hmm,
It was like she was brought up in a certain way
yeah,
that it was beneath her to live at the hands of others.
yeah,
So, but I think I want to ask her
yeah,
specifically, did she think about, because that probably would be in her mind as well.
yeah,
She was very much concerned about what would happen to us if something happened to her.
yeah,
And so she always brought us up to be independent, but also I
yeah.
think she set a remarkable example
Well,
that
that's interesting. Yeah,
I didn't appreciate while I was growing up.
yeah.
But I'll
Oh,
tell you, even to this day, Shaquille, I'm still inspired by her example
yeah.
and what
It's
she accomplished.
amazing. It's amazing. And my mom passed many years ago now. And I'll tell you, I think about it all the time, how I didn't give her enough credit
Right,
for the wise things she said or did when she was alive.
right.
But boy, am I grateful for her doing all of that now. And my ability to see the best in people, I can
Mhm.
directly attribute to her.
Wow, that's
My
beautiful.
ability to keep my cool and not lose my temper even when you feel wronged,
Yes,
directly from my mom. These are
yes,
examples that at the time I didn't realize I was picking up, but I
yes.
do. And so I feel like you had that same exposure and experience, and you feel that same level of gratitude that
And
I
just
do.
also from where we were, what we came
Yeah.
out of, to
Yeah.
where she ended up taking us,
Yeah.
like that's just wired deeply into every cell in my body.
Yeah. Yeah. And nothing is impossible now based on that
Exactly.
example that
Yeah.
you've
And
seen.
also, the future is bright.
Mm,
No matter what you're going through, you can make the future better. I think that's
yeah.
just deeply embedded in me.
Yeah. Well, when you say that, that reminds me of, I don't know if you've come across it in all your readings, and I'm sure you've read Jim Collins' work. the good to great work, which I talk about often. But one of the things that stands out to me is when he talks about the Stockdale paradox,
Yeah,
this idea of
exactly. Right
resilience.
on.
Well, so you tell it to me from your
Yeah, but
perspective.
I love that because
Yeah.
it's not this sort of superficial optimism.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, Shaquille, struggle with this
Mm-hmm.
to face reality.
Mm-hmm.
What is the reality of our situation?
Mm-hmm.
And face it fully
Yeah.
and without any sugarcoating.
Yeah.
And simultaneously
Yeah.
have optimism for the future,
Yeah.
that this is all going to work out.
Yeah.
I think this is a remarkable perspective.
Yeah.
Because to do otherwise is to, I think you can fool yourself. And then when reality comes knocking, you can't cope.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's how I take it. What are your thoughts?
No, that's exactly what resonates for me. And I talk about it all the time, is this ability to hope is not just sunshine and roses and lollipops, right?
Yeah.
It's hope with the perspective of things are hard and they might even get harder. And that's
exactly
another great quote that we often hear is life is difficult. Once you accept it's difficult, it doesn't matter as much anymore. You just get on with it. And that combination, it makes me, I actually feel very, very grateful. And I don't take for granted that has been embedded in me, because not everybody has it. Not everybody comes wired to do that. Yeah. For some, it's all doom and gloom. For some, it's all happiness and hope, but no substance. And the idea of being able to bring the two together, the whole, my listeners are going to get sick of hearing me, but I always talk about this, the ability to hold the opposites, the difficult and the hope, being able to hold them together is when the magic happens.
Right on. I love it.
So much of our lives are that way.
Yeah. And it takes a degree of maturity to do that, I think. It's critical.
It comes with experience, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing that I want to pull the thread on that you said earlier was the idea of waking up in the morning and thinking about what value am I going to create today? Such a powerful statement. So as I have done my studies to be an executive coach, one of the big part of the practice of coaching is to being very specific and deliberate in your setting of intentions. Waking up in the morning, taking that just 30 seconds to set your intention for the day. So when you said that idea of a salesperson waking up in the morning and deciding what value am I going to create today, that sounded very much like setting an intention. So can you make the connection between what you do professionally and how you help salespeople set that intention and deliver on that intention?
Yeah.
How do you practically do that?
So first of all, I think it's perspective, right? Like, first of all, I think the society we live in is amazing. It's magical. It's an opportunity. It's really a society of opportunity. And I know that firsthand because I simply changed my perspective, changed the choices I was making. And I think it was a 3-year process.
Okay. So it wasn't simple and snap of your finger. It was a process.
Everything had to change. And I think the entire wholesale change for me, that pivot, took about 3 years. And 3 years later, you wouldn't have recognized me. You'd have no idea where I came from. It was just a wholesale change. But I think there's a lot of places in the world where that kind of change is just not possible. It's possible here in Canada, in the type of society we live in. And then I think the perspective that of gratitude. Look at what we get to do, right?
Yeah.
We get to define how we live. We get to choose who we work with. Yeah. We get to choose what we do, how we bring value. Yeah. And I think not taking that for granted. Yeah. I think really honoring that and valuing that is the first perspective. Secondly, I framed my training around this whole concept of the hero's journey. Yeah. And that salespeople must understand that don't try to be the hero. And this is sort of the default mechanism for most salespeople is, how can I show this prospect or show this customer just how great I am and how great my company is? So I try to get them to get away from that perspective and instead see your prospect and your customer as the hero in their own movie. And it's important to see how great they can be in their movie. How do they realize their full potential in their movie? And our value is showing up as the special resource that helps them in their moment of need make the pivot so that they can become great in their own movie. And when we focus on that and set that as the intention, number one, it's humbling. I think it's like, wow, I'm not the center of attention after all. But number two, it's very liberating and very fulfilling. It's like maybe some customers I've had for years. Some customers I've just had for a season. But every customer, I can look back and know that I've made a difference. That their life is different as a result of a contribution that I've been able to make to and for them. And I think salespeople having that perspective, Shaquille, just changes everything. It's like, this is an opportunity. This is a lifestyle for which I should be highly grateful for. And this is sacred. When we enter into someone's movie to help them fulfill their potential and realize their dreams.
What you've just done, Adrian, for me there is you've helped almost articulate my purpose, because what you've described there, because of course I work with salespeople as well and leaders, and I'm also a coach. So I work with clients who are trying to be successful. And one of the core elements of training as a coach is you're not there to give advice. You're there to hold people capable. You're there to kind of help people realize that they have the answer or access to the answer for whatever change they want to make in themselves in their life. It's within them and not like this external force that's going to give it to you. But that's essentially how you're describing the hero's journey and the sales professional's role in the hero's journey. That like a coach, it's not their job to tell the customer, here's how what you do, because that's me making myself the hero and giving the answer. As a salesperson that really is facilitating a client's hero's journey, they're there to help them figure out how they can be successful and provide support, resources, encouragement, a product, a service, perhaps, to actually help them write their own hero's journey.
Exactly right. And I would say that all begins with the salesperson realizing they're a resource and then realizing the hero has a goal. In every hero's journey, the hero has a goal. And there are obstacles that are going to frustrate the hero and maybe even cause the hero to fail. And the role of the sales professional as the representative of their organization's resources is to help the hero navigate these obstacles so that they can achieve their goal. And with that, we get to bring creativity, we get to bring innovation, we get to bring all these capabilities with the intention of helping the hero achieve their goal.
Fantastic. Well, again, you've validated for me, I have this developing theory that the next generation of sales development is going to come from applying coach-like training to the profession of sales. And here's my underlying rationale is that there's probably no profession in the world that interacts with more sectors in the economy, with more industries, with more functions within companies, with more people than sales. It's in their job to interact with as many organizations, industries, sectors, people as possible.
Wow, that's amazing.
So what if you take that required function of the role and equip those salespeople with the core skills of being a really powerful coach, and imagine on how many lives they can impact and how many individual people they can help achieve their full potential, because they've already got the numbers of people they're seeing. Now, what if they were more impactful by helping those people be more impactful in their own lives? I think there's something there.
I think you're really onto something. And I'm going to add to that, you know, I'm having this conversation with you. I think it's the first time we've really sat down talking one-on-one in this way. And I got to say, you're an incredible listener. I speak with a lot of people, and a lot of times people tell me, Adrian, you're a great listener. I got to tell you, you're a great listener. And I'm thinking that's coming from your coaching, because you've got to listen in order to advise, in order to guide. And so I think wrapped up in what you're saying, somewhere in there is this ability for salespeople to develop really highly sophisticated listening skills.
I agree. The idea, thank you for that. First of all, thank you for that very kind compliment. I'll be straight with you. It's something that I have worked at Because,
It
you know,
shows.
I've done these typographies, personality tests, and there's one particularly I did, which is, I can't remember the exact nomenclature for it, but it's, you do some questions and you typograph yourself as a type of bird. There's eagles that are hard driven, type A, achievement oriented. There's owls that are analytically oriented. There's doves that are all about creating peace, right? Very obvious. And then there's peacocks. So I did this test, and guess what? I'm a peacock.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Which is actually not a surprise to me, because I do enjoy, like, I was a drama major in, well, not a major, but I studied drama in high school, and I love performance. I love keynote speaking.
Yes.
And I think it comes from that. But the effort to combine the peacock with the willingness and interest in other people's stories and their curiosity and really listening has been something that I've had to nurture and develop. And it's been so rewarding, so rewarding doing it.
Well, you
But
listen
thank you for
between
acknowledging
you listen between the lines, and not a lot of people can do that.
No, thank you
And
for
I
saying
think
that.
in terms of being this special resource to the heroes in our lives, which are our
Yeah.
customers, we do have to listen between the lines.
Yeah.
We really need to understand them in their full context, or as much as possible, in order to know what exactly does this customer need from me. And I think as well, in order to be committed to our customers over time. And that again is something that is really, it just weighs big on my mind, that, you know, everybody talks about customer loyalty. How do we get customer loyalty? How about if we spin that around and talk about being loyal to our customers rather than having them being loyal to us? But let's earn their loyalty by being loyal to them.
Love it. A whole new definition of customer loyalty.
And I
It's the
actually
same,
worked with a
it's the
client
same
that
set of
gave me
words,
that.
but just a different meaning, right?
Yeah, but it changes everything.
Yeah.
And at this client I had, his name was Chris, he was just like, I'm going to prove to my clients that I'm loyal to them.
Yeah.
And inspire them to be loyal to us. And I think that's
fantastic. And you know, the layer below that, by being, to be loyal to your customer means to be loyal to their goal.
Exactly right.
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
And able to turn on a dime with them when their circumstances change and the goal is being threatened. You know, we can proactively come to them and say, look, we didn't expect this, but this is what's happening now. You know, who expected the pandemic, right? This is what's happening. Hey, how do we change it up now so that you can still be successful?
Gosh, that's going to make it into my summary at the end of the episode, the switch around and the reframing of customer loyalty to creating customer loyalty to creating greater loyalty to our customers. I just think about the initiatives you could have in an organization that are focused on creating more loyalty to our customers. We're really powerful.
And I would say for me, this is rooted in, again, my childhood, where, you know, I saw the relationship my father and my mother had. And as an adult, a young adult, it's like, well, even as a child, like, why would you treat your spouse this way, right? And then to me, that has carried over into the sales arena, where I don't understand why a customer would mistreat a supplier. Like, in a way, that supplier is sort of your business spouse, right? Your business partner to help you. Why would you abuse them? Why not build a real partnership with them and build real loyalty? And I think that, like, for me, it's really been a focus for me to have a healthy relationship with my wife, to build a successful marriage. We're coming up to 30 years.
Wow, amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. So I've done that. My wife's my best friend. We've got a great, very fulfilling relationship. We've raised 2 successful children. But that commitment to my family, to my wife, to my kids, to my mother, to my siblings, I'm the same person coming into the business arena. I'm not one person at home and a different person at business.
Yeah.
And I think that the business people who abuse suppliers, how can they turn around and be a really loyal partner in their personal life to their friends? I think we are who we are, and we take ourselves with us. So this focus on building healthy human relationships in all aspects of our life makes us better people.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. That's a great intention for tomorrow morning. How am I going? So you've given me my intention in the morning. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up and say, how am I going to help somebody develop a better human relationship today?
Beautiful.
It's a great thing to be
And
working
imagine if
on.
we all did this. Imagine if we
Yeah.
all did this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because Andrew, that's one thing we certainly learned in the last 18, 20 months, isn't it? That really all we have to be able to count on is our relationships with each other. Like the relationships that we have with the people in our lives, both present and past, is what got us through this last 18, 20 months.
Exactly. And I think the past 18 to 20 months tested our commitment to each other and tested our commitment to our mission, to our goals. I think for some people, and this is, I think, part of the hero's journey as well, when the obstacles arise, what these obstacles or these villains, these opposing forces are really querying for the hero is, how committed are you to your goal, really?
Yeah.
If I throw a big enough obstacle at you, will you abandon the goal?
Yeah.
And I think for every business, our mission, whatever way we frame it, Shaquille,
Right.
our mission is to be the special resource for our customers. That's ultimately, whatever the mission statement is, I could boil it down to be the special resource, to create value for others by being the special resource for them.
Yeah.
And then the question is, how committed are we to doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. That's a great way of thinking about it. Something just came up as you were talking about how committed are you to the goal. Is there a role that a salesperson has in helping the customer define their goal? Like, part of what we talked about is the customer has a goal and our job is to help them achieve their goal. But is there a role to be played or a service to be provided in helping the customer define their goal? Maybe they don't have a goal, or they have a goal that might not be the right goal. Is there a role there at all?
I think it's a fascinating question. So I'm going to say no and yes.
Okay.
And I think the question has to be answered on two levels.
Okay.
So on level one, the hero has a purpose, has a goal, has a mission that they're setting out to achieve. And then some unexpected change happens that knocks them off their game, and they find themselves in this pit of misery, and they need help getting back on the horse, getting back in the game so that they can achieve their goal. That goal, that purpose, that mission, it's not the salesperson's job to define that. We work with competent people who are very capable, who are trying to achieve important things. We don't tell them what these important things are. Nobody could define for me that my purpose is going to be wrapped up in the sales industry, and that my purpose is to be a teacher, to be an educator. This comes from a lifetime of experience. It's part of my DNA. My father was a teacher. It's in my DNA. It's how I'm wired. So I have to discover, what is it that I really want to do in this world? So then I set out on that purpose. Having done that, I can run into trouble. Everybody has this unexpected change hanging over our heads. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So we could find ourselves in a spot of trouble. It's then that the salesperson has the opportunity to come into our lives, find out, where were we trying to get to? What trouble have we fallen into? Where are we lacking? And what help do we need? And I think at that stage, sort of level two, certainly it's appropriate for the salesperson to say, in virtue of your overall mission, in light of your overall purpose and where you are now, in order to get back on track, let's collaborate and come up with a new plan, a new game plan. Some new sub goals, new objectives, new initiatives. That's entirely appropriate. But that is within the context of a higher purpose.
Got it. So just to summarize, paraphrase, to confirm my understanding is, you need to be committed to your client's goal and hold them capable and trust their ability to find their own purpose, their own goal. At times when they need a little bit of help, and perhaps their goal might be a really big stretch, you can support them, collaborate them, work with them to help them perhaps formulate the plan, and including micro goals, but to move in the direction of where they want to go. It's got to be their direction, not your direction.
Having said all of that, you're a life coach, I think you're saying.
I'm an executive coach, so more business and leadership than life.
Okay, so in your role, and you'd have to tell me, it might be that you might be dealing with someone who's very, very goal oriented, and then they've accomplished everything they set their mind out to do, and then they're confused. Now they don't know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And maybe in your role, you're going to help them reset that noble purpose. I don't know, but I think that
I think what you've said, it's still relevant. What you're described for sales and customer relations is still relevant, because ultimately, yeah, I do help clients define goals, but there's a very fine line that you have to tread very carefully to make sure that where you end up in defining the goal is not unduly influenced by what you think the client should do.
Exactly.
It's really that's the art and the hard work of coaching. And that's why there's so much emphasis on training and development for coaches, is to have the self-awareness and the ability to be objective and say, hang on a second, I'm now evaluating, and that's not my job. My job is to help them uncover where they want to go and ask them the questions.
Exactly. And it's an uncovering.
Yes, right? I think that's right.
And maybe I'm speaking from my own personal experience, but I think it's sound that I'm committed to the path that I'm on because I came about it authentically. I discovered this. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I will do until the day I die. Every moment of my life, every interaction I have, I'm constantly trying to understand the human mind. Why does it work that way? And then how does that translate into sales?
Yeah, fantastic. So look, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I don't know if you realize how fast it's gone, but we're coming to the end of our time together. And it was amazing, and really, really grateful for all that I've learned from you. As we close, is there one or two things that you would love to leave our listeners with to help them think about kind of navigating the next several years? There's so much uncertainty and ambiguity that we're all facing. Would you offer any words of, I won't call it advice because none of us knows the right answer, but anything that you would offer people to think about?
I think what comes to mind, Shaquille, is navigating disruption. The uncertainty of the future is certain, right? That's something that we definitely know is coming, and maybe even increasingly so. One thing I think which will always be true, you and I could be meeting 50 years from now, 100 years from now, if that were possible, this will always be true. And I learned this very early from Zig Ziglar. He actually said this: you can get anything you want in life, as long as you help enough other people get what they want. And that, I read this like 35 years ago. It's more true today than it was 35 years ago. I think what will always be true is that human beings will always be motivated to want things, to improve their condition, always. And that our value will always come from understanding what they want, what is interfering with what they want, and how we can help. It doesn't matter which country, which age, which industry, what you said earlier about all the functions and industries and everything that salespeople come across. This will always be true. If you understand the human being in front of you and what they want and what's getting in their way, and you can help them get what they want, you will always be valuable, no matter what.
Like most fundamental principles, what you described, so simple. And again, during times of uncertainty, if you just remember the basics of to get what you want, you have to make sure that others get what they want without the expectation of return, right? Like you almost get what you want as an outcome.
Exactly. That you create value, you'll be rewarded. It's like, to me in my life, I have to pinch myself. Because I've just committed myself to helping others, and then it just comes back. Amazing. It's just a principle of the universe.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Adrian. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to getting the opportunity to work together. I'm sure we'll find a way
we will.
to work together, collaborate in the coming
Shaquille,
years.
I want to commend you on the way that you show up in the world, and your conversation skills, your listening skills, your intellect. I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Have a great rest of the day.
Awesome. You too.
Adrian was such a generous guest, and I'm grateful to him. Here are my key takeaways. He has made his career's purpose working to elevate the profession of sales, not with an aim of making money, but rather as his path for strengthening the relationships between people, both in life and business. One of the ways he does that is by teaching salespeople about the hero's journey. The hero's journey is a literary storytelling structure proposed by Professor Joseph Campbell in 1949. Adrian suggests that salespeople need to see their customer, or whomever they're serving, as the hero on a journey, and to see themselves as the supporter, the enabler to help that hero achieve whatever goal they're seeking to achieve in their life and in business. Adrian reminds us of the power of setting the intention every day to add value to someone else's journey. He also shared a different perspective on the phrase customer loyalty. We have all heard the term before and know it to refer to an objective that businesses have to keep their customers coming back and choosing them over the alternatives. Adrian suggests that business should try thinking about it in terms of how instead can they themselves build loyalty and demonstrate that loyalty to their customer. He reverses the idea of customer loyalty. I found that really intriguing. Adrian and I bonded on our belief in the Stockdale paradox, the idea that resilience comes from facing the brutal facts of a hard reality while at the same time having hope that things will get better. And he drew those lessons in life from the experience that he had with his mother as she navigated the challenges when he was a child to help improve his lot in life. Thank you, Adrian, for being so open and for sharing your life experience. And I hope you all have a great day. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, or share it. I want to say thank you to one of my favorite bands, Late Night Conversations, for sharing their song Chaos with me and letting me use it in this episode. You can learn more about them on Instagram at LNC Connected. And here's more of their song Chaos to take you out.
Far behind my eyes, mediation, suffocation, it'll break me. Information in disguise. But when your eyes finally found mine, you were there, but I'm defined by the chaos in my mind. I believe what I perceive is a weave tearing at the seams, and I wonder what's behind. And my ears are bleeding, and the reason isn't the logic of the season, taking the pleasing from my soul and leaving me to die. And I feel the lacing, LNC like racing, unstationary animation taking me